Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to another Christmas reflection here at Curlin Walsh Law. I have been thinking a lot about my mother today. My mother is heavy on my mind for a couple of reasons. One, this was her birthday month. Two, it was her anniversary month. We talked about memories of our mothers this morning on Share My Legacy Sharing Circle, and it's the first Christmas my family has to go through without my mother, who died in June. It's hard to talk about my mother, and I have wanted to since I came back in June, and every time I backed away from it. So I'm facing it because I loved her so much and I want to pay tribute to her while I'm still in the year of her death. So she was 91 at her death. She was born in 1929, grew up in the hungry 30s. She raised the 12 of us on a small farm, so she had a hard life, as many of her generation did. She was always having a baby, washing clothes by hand, trying to get them dried on the line, cooking and baking, and sometimes scolding us, always loving us, raising us to be the adults we turned out to be. And J.K. Rowling said, to be loved deeply by your mother gives you protection long after she's gone for the rest of your life. So my mother was the heart and soul of our home, as many of the women again of her generation were. She was everything to us. She always said she was happiest when a baby was sleeping in the cradle and the clothes were blowing on the line. I've been in the US 30 years, and it was always a fear of mine that I would get a call in the night that something would have happened at home, and I'd go rushing home in that chaos. I feel privileged that we knew my mother's death was coming, and in those final weeks I got to be with her. My team here at Curlin Walsh Law took over and made sure that I didn't even have to worry about my office. My vice president at the chamber and executive director took care of all my responsibilities there. And my darling Tom, my husband, took over the boys, even though they were all graduating from their various schools and moving on to big, important next stages. He just took that and let me spend those few weeks with my mother. It was amazing. What struck me most about that time was how my mother's faith that she had devoted her life to served her in her final days. Her priests, our old priest who was the same age as her and a great friend who was as sad at her passing as we were, came and prayed with her every day, and a young priest, our new curate, who went to school with my nephew. So there was just the incredible generational divide there, but they were both so beautiful to her, giving her prayers, her last rites, a plenary indulgence as if we were in the medieval times. And we all sat around her bedside, and again, faith served. We said rosaries, prayers for the dying, all the time, blessed candles lit and burning. And as we sat there, it just came to me time and time again that her faith that had buoyed her all her life gave back to her over and over as she lived her last days. Her death was faith-filled. She had a beautiful wake in her home, which is how we still hold our wakes in the country, in the part of Ireland that I come from. She was carried in the coffin by her sons and her neighbours and her nephews and her nieces and her daughters. Neighbours and friends lined this country road in the beautiful sunshine in June as we all went to the church and laid to rest there in this beautiful grave at our little country churchyard. And I will tell you, My family, my siblings, my nieces, my nephews who sat with her during those days, we all knew we'd never be the same again. And we pondered what we devoted our life to and what our meaning and purpose is, because my mother never doubted. She never doubted that faith and family was all there was for her, and she never doubted her place in heaven. Well, maybe 2%. She was 98% she was going to go there, but she was also deeply humble. So she would never be 100% sure she was going to heaven. And I said to her one time in her final days, just in case I don't see you again, Mommy, I'll meet you in heaven. And she was just, what makes you think, what makes you so sure that you have a place in heaven? But as sad as it was to be with her, as sad as it was to lose her, it was a privilege to be there with her at the end. And I'm going to leave you with a poem that I have heard of through the years, because as you know, I deal with a lot of seniors. We have illness and death in my practice. We have a lot of experience with hospice, and it was through my clients who have hospice for their loved ones that I became familiar with the book Gone From My Sight and the poem Gone From My Sight. So I'm going to read it for you because I knew of it academically with my clients, and then I really lived it emotionally with my mother. Gone From My Sight by Henry Van Dyke. I am standing upon the seashore. A ship at my side spreads her white sails to the moving breeze and starts for the blue ocean. She is an object of beauty and strength. I stand and watch her until at length she hangs like a speck of white cloud just where the sea and sky come to mingle with each other. Then someone at my side says, there, she is gone. Gone where? Gone from my sight, that is all. She is just as large in mast and hull as she was when she left my side. And she is just as able to bear her load of freight to her destined port. Her diminished size is in me, not her. And just at the moment when someone says, there she is gone, there are other eyes watching her coming and other voices ready to take up the glad shout, here she comes. Thanks for listening as I shared this story about my mother. And I will see you one more time in 2021 next week as we take a look at the rest of the events of the year in review and ask you to review your year and look out forward a little bit to 2022 and what surprises it might have in store. Thank you, and I will see you again soon. Goodbye.